Exterior. A bland, faceless city. Early morning. Plain, stark buildings. Sharp. Angular. Brutalist in appearance, but brittle too. Oversaturated and washed out. Hero. A woman in her mid to late 20s walks beside a road. She wears a simple white jumpsuit. Head forward, not looking around her. She's focused, particular, tenacious, and not afraid to ask questions. There are others in white jumpsuits around her, keeping to themselves. There's no chatter, just purpose. A man in his late 20s, also wearing a white jumpsuit, jogs up alongside Hero. This is Exile. He's affable and open to the point of being a little too trusting.
You don't have to walk me to the station. I know it's difficult.
Got to make sure my exile leaves.
I'd hardly call the United States exile.
They walk in silence for a couple of steps.
You could come with me. It's only 6 months.
Hero stops. Exile does too. She looks around the buildings around her, taking in her surroundings.
This city, my life is here.
Well, if you change your mind, here's where I'll be staying.
He passes over a piece of paper which Hero puts in her pocket, unread.
I'll think about it.
Exile nods, accepting that this is the best he could ask for. They continue in silence and turn a corner. With his mind on other things, Exile steps out into the road without looking.
Look out!
Hero grabs Exile's arm and pulls him back as a large black car speeds past, narrowly missing him. Exile looks shocked and turns to Hero.
I think you just... My hero!
In relief, he throws his arms around Hero. Interior, Hero's apartment. Window. Night. The room is dark, the only light coming through a large window overlooking the city. It might be late, but there are signs of life. In the distance are flashes of lightning, but no rain or thunder. The apartment is open plan and, much like the city, is minimalist and plain. Functional. There's an empty double bed, its white covers thrown back. Next to it, a white alarm clock, its red LEDs casting a glow over the bedside table it stands on. A few feet away from the bed is a white, low-backed armchair, a book resting on one of the arms. Unable to sleep, Hero stands by the window watching the city. She turns away, looking over at the bed. Fade to interior, Hero's apartment, sleeping area, early morning. Hero is asleep on her side in the bed, covers pulled up and over her. The red numbers on the alarm clock show the time as 5:59 a.m. They change to 6 a.m. and Hero's eyes flick open. Her arm reaches out to silence the alarm. She rolls onto her back, gathers her thoughts for a moment, then sits up and swings her leg over the side of the bed. Exterior, an alleyway, simultaneous. Dishevelled, confused and wearing his white jumpsuit, Exile comes to, lying on the floor of the alleyway. Unsure of where he is or how he got there, he drags himself up to a sitting position, leans his back up against a wall. Intercut, Hero's apartment and an alleyway. Now fully awake, Hero stands and walks over to the ensuite bathroom in the corner of her apartment. Exile is also up. He looks around, still with no idea where he is. He brushes himself down, heads towards the alleyway mouth. Hero comes out of the bathroom wearing a white towel. The bed is now made and has a clean white jumpsuit on it. She picks it up and looks over it. Exile is out on the main street. There are a few people around. He tries to speak to a passerby.
Excuse me?
They ignore him. Exile approaches another.
Hello? Hello? Hi, excuse me.
Once again, he is ignored. Becoming frantic, Exile stands in the middle of the pavement as people walk around him.
Please, someone, please, Just tell me what's going on!
Dressed and ready, Hero stands by the front door. She looks over her apartment, then leaves, the door closing behind her. Exterior, near the apartment tram stop, moments later. Hero strides purposefully along the road, others walking alongside her. Everyone moves with singular purpose. Hero arrives at a tram stop and waits. The tram arrives, doors opening with a hiss of hydraulics. Hero and a few others get on board without speaking. The tram pulls away. Exterior, near the alleyway tram stop, a little later. Exile is still wandering aimlessly, having no luck in getting anyone to answer or even acknowledge him.
Hi, can you please help me? I don't know where.
Finally, a voice in the crowd.
Exile, is that you?
Exile slowly turns to see Hero stood nearby, looking concerned.
Exile?
Exile looks at Hero as though he's never seen her before.
Exile, it's me, Hero. Are you okay?
Exile continues to look at Hero as though she's fallen from the sky. Studying her intently, he slowly points at her.
Hero?
Unsure, Hero nods along. Exile points at himself.
Exile.
Hero looks increasingly concerned, but there is no help to be found. Everyone simply moves around the two of them. Another tram pulls up on the other side of the tracks. Hero pauses for a moment, considering her options.
I'll have to tell them I'm not feeling too good. Exile, I'm taking you home, to my place. Is that okay?
Exile nods, slowly. Hero guides the distressed and disorientated Exile onto the tram. They take seats as the doors shut and it pulls away. Interior, Hero's apartment, entrance area, later. Hero and Exile enter the room, Hero first, followed by a very unsure Exile. Hero leaves him while she heads further into the apartment. Exile looks as though he's never seen anything like this before, picking things up and examining them. After a moment, Hero returns.
Told them I'm running late. Had a bad start.
Exile doesn't appear to be listening. He's too busy looking around him. Hero watches as he studies things. He flinches when she comes nearby.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay.
Hero studies Exile as he continues to look around the room.
But I'm going to have to go in at some point this morning.
Exile pauses. A moment of recognition.
Archives?
Hero looks surprised, but also pleased.
Yes, that's right. Archives. That's where I work, where we work.
Exile points at Hero, a little more sure of himself now.
Hero.
She nods encouragingly. Exile points at himself.
Exile.
Hero nods once again. Exile nods too, even managing a small smile.
There doesn't appear to be any injury, no trauma to the head. Do you remember what happened? What you were doing before this?
Exile starts to speak, then stops. He shakes his head.
Nothing. It's all just. No, nothing. Nothing.
Hero is concerned about her friend, but equally has to be somewhere else.
Exile, I need to go. Archives, you remember?
Exile nods, slowly.
But I need to know you're safe, so I'm going to have to leave you here. Please, please don't go anywhere. Stay here. I'll be back as soon as I can.
Hero looks around her and writes something on a notepad. She hands the piece of paper to Exile.
If you need anything, just use this, okay?
Exile nods. Satisfied, but with no other choice, Hero heads to the door. She stops for a moment, watching Exile, then leaves. Exterior, main steps outside Archives, mid-morning. Archives is tall, impressive, and imposing. It has the same aesthetic as everything in the city. Functional, oppressive. Head down, Hero darts up the steps and inside. Interior, the stacks, inside archives, moments later. The place lives up to its name. It's a reference library. Rows of shelves, stacks, are filled with books and files. There are other people in white jumpsuits here, and one is dressed in a red jumpsuit, a supervisor, checking everything is happening as it should. Everyone works with razor-sharp focus. There is no browsing, just organisation. Hero takes a place in front of one of the stacks. Next to it is a trolley filled with books and files. She gathers her thoughts, then starts looking through some of the paperwork on the trolley before filing it. The supervisor comes over, clipped, officious, almost robotic. He doesn't wait for Hero to stop before he speaks.
Unlike you to be late. Oversleep?
No, just not feeling too good.
Unlike you to be unwell. Everything okay?
Yes, everything's fine. Sorry, just a lot to catch up on.
Okay. As long as you're okay.
He pauses, gives a curt nod, and then spins on his heels and heads off to another part of archives. Hero sets herself back to her filing. Fade to the stacks inside archives, late morning. Hero has nearly finished her filing. The supervisor brings over a new trolley with more piled onto it. He leaves it at the end of the row Hero is working on. Hero mutters under her breath.
Thanks.
She walks over to the trolley and sees Exile stood at the main desk, some distance away. Without hesitation, she heads straight over to him. Seeing Hero approaching, Exile smiles. Hero doesn't return it.
What are you doing here?
I'm sorry?
What are you doing here?
I work here. Remember? Hero, are you?
I'm fine. What are you doing here?
I work here.
I know, it's just when I saw you last, you barely remembered your name, let alone where you worked.
Saw me What? Hero, you're worrying me. I haven't seen you since yesterday.
What? No, that's not right. This morning you were confused, didn't know who I was, didn't even know who you were. I took you back to my place. You don't remember any of this?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, I woke up, got ready, and came here. Same as I do every morning.
But I saw you. I took you home.
Hero looks increasingly troubled. Exile tries to set her mind at rest.
Are you sure it wasn't a dream?
If it was, why was I late?
There is a beat. Hero strides over to the supervisor.
I need to go home.
You arrived late, and now you want to leave? That's simply not possible. You know what you do is important. You know there's no going home yet.
With that, the supervisor stalks off, leaving Hero on her own. Exile joins her.
No surprise there.
I need to go home. I need to find out what's going on.
Hero turns to Exile.
And I need you to come with me.
I'm not so sure what you're even...
There's someone at my apartment pretending to be you. Either that or it's you who's pretending.
Hey, I know who I am.
Then come with me.
Exterior, on the street, moments later. Hero and Exile are putting some distance between themselves and archives. As before, others pay them little attention.
So this...
You, Exile. You told me it was you.
It? So you believe me that I am Exile?
I don't know what I believe. This morning I saw someone who looked just like you.
And you took it home?
You were lost, confused, afraid. You were also my friend. What was I supposed to do?
Hero strides off ahead. Exile catches up with her. Not wishing to slow down, Hero keeps walking whilst Exile talks.
So what do you think it is? A body snatcher? Alien replacement?
Let's hope not.
No.
Interior, Hero's apartment, a little later. The apartment door slowly opens and Exile cautiously enters, followed by Hero. The place looks just as Hero left it.
Hello, Exile.
Exile gives Hero a look which she ignores. There's a noise from the back of the room.
I finished early, so
You finished early?
Exile A comes into view. It's clear he's feeling more himself.
No one ever finishes early in the archives. I wondered if this would happen.
what, that I would find out that you are, what are you?
I'm Exile.
Exile A smiles whilst Exile walks around him studying his copy.
No. You can't be, because I'm Exile. You're some kind of copy, a duplicate. A very good one, but a copy all the same.
No. Exile. I'm you. Just as you are me.
Hero stands separate from the two of them.
One of you is lying.
But, huh? Wait, I thought we'd been through this. I'm Exile, and this is I'm not even sure what this is, but it's not me.
Hero addresses Exile A.
When I left this morning, you could barely remember anything. Now you remember protocol? How?
I told you. I've told you all along. I'm Exile.
No, I'm going to need more than that. Saying you're somebody doesn't make you that person. One last time, who or what are you?
What do you want me to say? Your name is Hero. You work in the archives, which you've always done.
All things you could have looked up or guessed.
Exile A looks unsure. Exile looks to push the advantage.
Hey, you haven't answered her question either. How come you remember everything now?
You're questioning my recovery?
I'm questioning everything.
Exile A looks at the white table and 4 white chairs. Hero has as her eating area.
Do you mind if I sit down, at least?
Hero's apartment, eating area, moments later. Hero, Exile, and Exile A are sat at a simple white table. Exile A gathers his thoughts.
You're right. I remember a lot more now. Who I am, who you are, what this place is. This isn't the first time this has happened.
Go on.
Exile A turns to Exile.
First, I need you to understand that I am you. Same name, same age.
Wait, what? You're some twin brother I never had?
No, you're still not getting it. When I say I am you, that's exactly what I mean.
Exile A now turns to Hero.
I am Exile, just not quite the Exile you know.
This is nonsense.
Exile A leans back in the chair considering his next words.
What if every choice we make, whether we turn left or right at a junction, whether we get up or press snooze in the morning alarm, whether you help a friend or not?
Exile A looks intently at Hero. She holds his gaze, impassive and unimpressed.
What if the path we choose doesn't close the ones we don't? What if we make every decision available to us, and these decisions, these different lives, all run alongside each other?
So you're saying you're me from some kind of alternative reality?
What I'm saying is I'm me from my point of view, and it's all this which is the alternative reality.
Arguing over points of view will get us nowhere. You said this has happened before?
Yes, twice.
Think it'll happen again?
I have no idea.
What happened to these other alternate realities?
Once again, I have no idea. I just remember waking up somewhere. Lost.
With no memory of what happened or how you got here?
Exile A nods.
And it's only you this keeps happening to?
Exile A blusters a little. It's clear he doesn't know.
Yeah, I have no idea.
You talk about alternate realities, how this keeps happening to you. Why have you not heard about all of this?
Exile A shrugs his shoulders.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you have no idea. But surely someone does. Something like this wouldn't go unnoticed.
She looks at Exile.
Would it?
Exile shrugs his shoulders.
Well, we're in the perfect position to find out. Archives.
Realization dawns on Hero and Exile A.
Records, files, things going back years. If this is as I have been saying, there's gotta be something in there about it.
And you've got clearance for this classified stuff we keep in the subs.
Exile nods encouragingly, then stops as he hits upon a snag.
We might have a problem. Someone's gonna want to know why we left early, and if we're both in the headmaster's office, how am I gonna get into them?
That's where I can help. I pretend to be you. What am I talking about? I am you. And I head down to the subs, and then
No. You're coming with me. We'll go to the headmaster's office, and my exile, will go to the subs.
You still don't trust me?
Hero leans in a little closer.
I don't even know you.
Exile A looks exasperated. Exile breaks the tension.
Okay, we have a plan. If we find nothing, he's been lying. But if we do find something...
Everyone considers the ramifications of this.
So now what? Back to archives?
No, we'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll look odd if we go back now. Okay, I'll take him with me and meet you in the morning.
Exile stands and beckons to Exile A. Hero stops him.
He stays here.
Well, surely it makes more sense for him to come back with me. I mean, at least I have my clothes that we fit each other.
I don't want him leaving this apartment, not unless I'm with him.
Hero stands, speaking to Exile A as she does so.
You stay here.
What? Where are you going?
I need to speak to him in private, but I also need to keep an eye on you.
Hero's apartment, entrance area, moments later. Hero and Exile are stood by the door to the apartment. They lower their voices. Hero keeps her eyes on Exile A, who remains sat at the table. Exile also watches his duplicate.
What do you think?
That I trust you more than I trust him.
Thanks.
Hero continues to scrutinize Exile A for a beat.
So I'll see you outside archives in the morning then?
No, later, somewhere else. After you check the subs.
The canteen?
Less public, just in case something needs to be done. I'm thinking here.
Exile considers, then nods.
Okay, fine by me. I'll meet you back here in the morning.
Hero nods and Exile leaves. She walks back to Exile A.
So what now?
You can have the bed. I'll have the chair.
But
I'll have the chair.
fine by me.
Hero sits in the low-back chair and picks up her book. Exile sits on the corner of the bed. Interior. Hero's apartment. Window. Night. The room is dark. Exile A is asleep in the bed. Hero looks out of the window. In the distance there are occasional flashes of lightning. No thunder or rain, just flashes. Exile A stirs but doesn't wake up. Hero looks over at him and then turns back to the window. Fade 2. Interior, Hero's apartment. Sleeping area, early morning. The red digital numbers on the white alarm clock change from 5:59 a.m. to 6 a.m. Hero is in the chair, still wearing her white jumpsuit. Her eyes flick open just as the alarm sounds. Exile A slowly comes to.
What?
Without saying a word, Hero smartly gets up, walks over to the alarm and switches it off. She heads straight to the bathroom, leaving Exile sat up in bed, blearily watching her. Hero's apartment eating area, later. Hero is sat at the table eating her breakfast. She takes another mouthful, staring into the middle distance. Exile A is sat opposite, watching her, with no food or conversation. He stands and paces to the window. Hero follows him with her eyes as she eats. Interior, corridor outside Hero's apartment, later still. The apartment door closes with a sharp click.
One more time. I need to make sure you understand.
We find the supervisor and offer our deepest apologies for leaving early yesterday. The other one heads to the subs. Where are we meeting him?
Nowhere. You don't need to know what he's doing. All you need to do is
Pretend to be who I already am. Got it.
and keep away from him. If you see him, turn around. Walk the other way. I don't want people seeing you and the real exile together.
I'm the real exile.
You know what I mean.
Hero strides away down the corridor. Exile A walks after her. After a few paces, she stops.
We can't go in together either. It'll look odd. You go first. I'll follow.
Whatever.
Beyond arguing, Exile A walks ahead, feeling the weight of Hero's gaze. Exterior, main steps, outside archives, early morning. Exile A heads inside, shortly followed by Hero. There is a beat as people enter and exit the building. Exile walks purposefully up the stairs and into the building. Interior, the stacks, inside archives, late morning. Hero is at her usual station. She looks over at Exile A, who stands by the main desk, laughing and joking with a group of other white jumpsuits. He sees Hero, smiles and nods his head in greeting. Unsmiling, Hero nods back. There is a cough behind her. It's the supervisor.
Good morning. Feeling okay today?
Hero glances at Exile A and sees another supervisor talking to him too. Hero starts to reply, but the supervisor stops her.
Stop what you're doing. Follow me.
Hero does what she's asked. Another glance confirms that Exile A is also being taken somewhere. Interior, head of Archives office a few minutes later. The room is functional, bright, soulless, as well as welcoming as a doctor's waiting room. There is a single desk, in tray on one side, out tray on the other. Sat behind it is a woman in her 50s wearing a black jumpsuit, serious, hard-faced. This is the head of Archives. There are no other chairs in the room. Hero and Exile A are standing, legs shoulder-width apart, arms behind them. The woman speaks slowly and deliberately. She's not happy, but never raises her voice.
What were you thinking? That somehow I would not notice? That you had gone, both of you?
Hero starts to reply, but Head of Archives holds up a finger, cutting her off.
Do not speak.
Interior, outside the subs, simultaneous. Exile walks purposely up to a door and pauses. There is a click. It swings open slightly. He enters the subs. Behind the door is a corridor along both sides of which are a series of other doors, each with a small sign. Whereas other areas of Archives have been clean and bright, this place isn't. It's dark, dingy, forgotten about. Exile tries to make out what's written on the door signs, heading further down the corridor as he does so. Intercut, office, and the subs. The head of Archives is still sitting behind her desk.
You have both always been exemplary at what you do, until now.
Exile finds the door he was looking for, opens it, heads inside. The head of Archives is silent for a moment.
I am so very disappointed. Especially in you, Hero. You've never done anything like this before.
Exile leaves the room he was looking in, closing the door behind him. He tries to open the door opposite. It's locked.
Odd.
With little effort, he forces the door open. It's a library, not Fort Knox, so it's not difficult. He steps inside. The head of archives prowls around Hero and Exile A.
I cannot let this go unpunished.
Exile comes out of the room and walks smartly back towards the main door. The head of archives stops in front of Hero and Exile A. She stands close, uncomfortably close.
Exile, you have been extended certain privileges. I will be revoking those privileges.
Head still rigidly forward. Hero and Exile exchange a sideways glance. Exile stands by the main door. For a moment he wonders if it will open. There is a click. He pushes it and walks through. The head of archives leans in closer, her mouth close to Exile A's ear.
Now.
There is a single short whoop of an alarm as Exile closes the door. He freezes, but nothing happens. He makes his way back towards the main parts of archives. The head of archives is sat behind her desk once again. Hero and Exile A are still stood in place.
You can leave now.
Hero and Exile A do just that. Interior, a corridor, inside archives, moments later. Admonished, Hero and Exile A return to their stations.
You think it works?
Find out later.
I mean, I didn't hear any alarms or anything.
We'll find out later.
Hero peels off and starts filing, looking over at Exile A to make sure he returns to where he should be. Exterior, main steps, outside archives, late afternoon. There are a few people leaving the building. Hero is one of them. Exile A jogs up behind her.
Evening!
Hero keeps her head down.
Try not to make it so obvious.
I mean, I don't think anyone's bothered. Where is he? Have you seen him?
Not with you stood there. Hopefully he's nowhere near.
Interior, Hero's apartment, reading area, early evening. Exile A is sat on the corner of the bed. Hero is sat in the low-backed chair, reading her book.
Has he been late before?
You tell me. You say you are him.
Exile A ignores the jibe.
Where do you think he is?
I don't know. Maybe he's caught. Maybe he's dead. Maybe he's leapt into some alternate reality, just like you said you did.
That's not how it works.
Well, you're here, and Exile, the real Exile, isn't. How do I know you've not gotten rid of him? That you aren't some alien replacement?
I thought we'd been through this already. I'm not...
So we'll go through it again. Look at it from my point of view. A stranger claiming to be someone I know suddenly appears.
Upset with what he's hearing, Exile A stands, walks away. Hero follows him, looking to apply more pressure.
Lost and confused at first, but soon and quickly, his memory comes back. The stranger starts to remember things, even pretends to be the person he says he is. Then my friend, the one the stranger says he is, that friend disappears. It all seems a little convenient.
Oh, convenient? Convenient? Imagine what it's like for me. Everything, everyone I've known, gone. Replaced with an echo of who they were, of what they were. And the echoes are becoming fainter. I see people drifting, becoming less. You say you don't trust me. How I'm different. Imagine that from my point of view. It's not just the one person who's changed. It's everyone.
Exile A sits back down on the bed. Starting to realise what it must be like for Exile A, Hero sits down without saying anything. The heat leads the argument. Interior, Hero's apartment, window, night. The room is dark, unlit. Exile A is asleep in the bed. Hero is looking out of the window over the city at night. There are the usual flashes of lightning in the distance. Exile A stirs, then wakes up and sees Hero.
Can't sleep?
I never do.
Exile A gets out of bed and stands watching the scene out of the window too. Another flash in the distance.
Have you ever wondered what's out there? Over that hill? By the end of that road?
I've never left the city.
Me neither. Well, not through choice, anyway.
Eyes narrowed, Hero studies Exile A for a moment.
Did it hurt when you crossed over? Was there any pain?
No. Just confusion. It's like being born. You suddenly appear exactly as you were before. It's everything else that changes.
But not by much.
No, not by much. But it's enough. Enough for me to know I'm somewhere else.
And you just keep going? It's happened. What, twice?
Exile A nods.
Are there any others? Anyone else you know this has happened to?
None I know of. None that I've met. Anyway. As far as I know, I'm the only one.
Hero turns back to the window.
You should get some more sleep. You've had a big day.
Exile A goes to say something, then thinks better of it. Instead, he goes back to bed. Hero stays looking out the window. Fade to interior, Hero's apartment, sleeping area, early morning. The red numbers on the alarm clock change from 5:59 a.m. to 6 a.m. Sat in the chair, Hero opens her eyes. She looks over at the bed. It's empty. She sits up, instantly alert. There is a noise from the bathroom and Exile A comes out wearing one of Hero's jumpsuits. It's a little small. He turns off the alarm and sees Hero looking at him, looks down at his jumpsuit and smiles.
I wasn't sure if it would fit. I hope you don't mind.
Exile A carries on smiling as Hero walks past, heading to the bathroom without a word. He calls after her.
Morning!
Dressed and with little else to do, Exile tidies the bed. Hero's apartment, eating area, a little later. Sat at the table, Hero is eating her breakfast. Exile A is sat with her. He doesn't have anything in front of him.
So, we carry on as normal?
I don't know what else we can do.
Lucky I was here to fill in then, huh?
Lucky isn't the word I'd use.
No, you're right. I certainly don't feel it.
Having finished her breakfast, Hero takes the bowl away, leaving Exile A sat there. Exterior, out on the street, early morning. Hero and Exile A are walking to the apartment tram stop.
As soon as we turn the corner, I'll drop back.
Yeah. Don't want people thinking we know each other.
They turn around a corner, just about to cross the road when a black car screeches to a halt in front of the two of them. The door opens.
Get in.
Hero and Exile A look around them.
What are you gonna do? Ask for help? Get in, please.
With little choice, Exile A and Hero do as they're asked. A couple of people watch the car as it leaves, most simply carry on with what they were doing. Interior, car interior, continuous. A large limousine-like space, Hero and Exile A are sat travelling backwards. Sitting upright and opposite is a second supervisor, wearing a red jumpsuit. His head darts back and forth between Hero and Exile A.
It is good that you've come with us.
It's not like we had a choice.
The second supervisor fixes his gaze on Exile A.
We all have choices. You know this. You yourself are the result of choices.
Exile A starts to protest. The second supervisor talks over him.
This pretense you are keeping up, it's not necessary. We know who you are. We know where you've come from. If we did not, then you wouldn't be here now.
So where are you taking us? And what about...
The second supervisor simply sits back and smiles.
Answers are coming.
He looks between Hero and Exile A, still smiling, but clearly isn't going to say any more. Hero looks out of the car window. Exterior, the facility, later. The car pulls up outside a large and oppressive-looking building. 2 people in white jumpsuits open the car doors. Hero and Exile A climb out, followed by the second supervisor. He motions to them to make their way into the building. Interior, somewhere inside the facility, moments later. The place is a hive of activity, looking like a cross between sleek minimalism and tomorrow's world. Machines with large dials, spinning tape tracks and flashing lights are everywhere. Various people wearing white jumpsuits work at the machines. There are a couple more red jumpsuit-wearing supervisors too. The second supervisor stands behind Hero and Exile A, who in turn are stood behind a woman in a black jumpsuit who is watching it all. This is the head of facility. She turns around. She looks exactly like the head of archives. Hero and Exile A look a little surprised. She walks over.
You have something to tell me.
Hero looks to Exile A. She feigns ignorance.
Ari?
Not you.
She uses
Him.
the same...
Me? I don't know what you...
Tell me, Exile, where are you from?
Well, I don't know. This is where I'm from. Here.
Here, but not here. You are someone out of time. No, not time. Place. You, Exile, are someone out of place. And do you know how I know this?
No.
Exile A shakes his head. There's no point in pretending anymore. The head of facility nods to one of the white jumpsuits. They bring Exile up. A look of concern crosses Hero's face.
Exile.
Don't worry. I'm all right. I'm fine. But you're going to want to hear this.
The head of facility smiles at Exile.
Thank you, Exile.
She turns to Exile A.
I know who you are. I know what's happened to you. How many times has it been now? Once? Twice?
Twice.
Ah, twice. Look around you. Everyone working here has made that same leap.
Exile A and Hero look around at the small groups of people. It soon becomes apparent that some of the groups are made up with the same person.
Is that what this is? A job interview?
Hero, please, listen to what she has to say.
The head of facility holds up a finger, silencing Exile. She is clearly in command.
Let her have her questions.
The head of facility looks at Hero with a smile.
Do continue.
Thank you. Okay, firstly, where are we? What is this place? And secondly, what do you mean you know what he is?
Follow me, please.
The head of facility leads the way. Hero, Exile, Exile A, and the second supervisor follow behind.
Some of this you already know. You've just chosen not to believe it.
The group approaches a door. The head of facility stands in front of it for a moment. There is a click, and it opens slightly. The head of facility stands to one side to let Exile A, Hero, and Exile in. They are followed by the second supervisor. The head of facility closes the door. Interior. Facility viewing room. Continuous. The room is much like everywhere else, bland and functional. A large window runs along one wall looking over a lower room. In the room below are various red jumpsuited supervisors and white jumpsuits working on a machine consisting of an enormous projector screen and a desk which has a single microphone in the middle of it. On either side of the desk there are two large cabinets filled with computer equipment. Thick cables stretch away from it all. The head of facility walks over to the large window and, after giving them all a moment to take everything in, speaks without turning around.
What did you think when he told you he comes from an alternative reality?
But you've not.
Still looking out the window, the head of facility holds up a finger, silencing Hero.
You've had your questions. Let me have mine.
But.
Answers are coming.
So you keep saying.
The head of facility turns from the window, quietening Hero with a look.
Hero, please, let the lady speak.
The head of facility smiles and nods to Exile as thanks. She turns back to Hero.
So, what did you think?
That he was lying, of course.
He was telling the truth.
And I should just believe you?
Oh, Hero. Do you not think it odd that there are not just one, but multiple people this has happened to? You saw a few of them in the other room, of course. And what about me? Surely you've seen me before.
You're a duplicate too.
No, I'm the original. Archives is the duplicate.
Hero looks astonished.
What, did you think I have the time to look after both this facility and archives?
So you let one of these take over instead?
Why not? Archives are here. It makes no difference. Yes, there might be slight variations in our history, but we're basically the same person.
And this is what she's been trying to say. What I spoke about. It's really happening. Every outcome of every decision you've ever made is being played out somewhere.
Okay, if this is true, if there are indeed multiple versions of us, each of them slightly different, why are they turning up here?
There may be infinite possibilities out there, but it seems there's only finite amount of space to hold them in, and that space is shrinking.
Shrinking? How is that even possible?
And here is where I tell you what this facility is for. To find out the answer to that very question.
She turns back to look at the machine in the room below.
We are going to use that machine to contact one of our nearest...
She searches for the right word.
Layers. One where there have been only a few minor changes. All we need is the right frequency.
So where do we fit in? Why bring us here?
Exile turns to Exile A.
You said you've crossed over twice so far. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
And when you came here, you met me.
Exile A nods. He's not too sure what Exile is getting at. Hero speaks up.
Where is the other exile?
Exactly! Where is the third exile? The version of you who would have come with you that second time.
Realization dawns on Exile A.
Never thought.
We never thought.
The head of facility turns to Exile A.
Exile, you will go back to archives.
You can't really be suggesting that.
Why not? It's perfectly capable. There is, of course, one duplicate in archives already, or had you forgotten?
What about me? Do you have another copy around here too?
The head of facility ignores that question.
With cover in place, you two will be able to look for the missing duplicate.
What if we don't find him?
I have every faith that you will.
And when we do?
Kill him.
There is a horrified silence. The head of facility starts to laugh.
Bring him here. What else are you planning to do with him?
What are you planning on doing?
You said you wanted answers? Bring him here, and answers you shall have.
The head of facility turns back to the window to look at the machine in the room below. She speaks without turning.
You can leave now.
Without a word, the second supervisor takes Hero and Exile out of the room. Interior, a bland canteen, restaurant, early evening. The place is humourless and sterile. No decor, no paintings. Everything simply does the minimum of what it needs to do. Around the walls are booths made of white plastic moulded tables and chairs. Dotted around the middle of the room are other freestanding white tables and chairs. Although there are others sat at tables, they keep themselves to themselves. There is no sign of waitresses or other staff. Hero is sat in a booth on her own with a tray of food in front of her. She looks unsure when Exile slides onto the seat opposite. Exile pretends to look put out at his reaction and helps himself to a piece of food from Hero's tray. He winks, smiles, pops it into his mouth.
People have seen us together, you know?
Hero doesn't say anything. She picks up a piece of food and eats it. Exile smiles and leans back into the corner whilst she finishes. She swallows and holds Exile's gaze for a beat.
What did you find out?
Huh?
From the subs. We were supposed to meet at my place. You didn't make it, remember?
Exile shrugs as Hero picks up a mouthful.
Nothing here.
Hero nods but says nothing. The food still on her fork.
He held you there against your will overnight. What did she do to you?
Flashback 2. Interior, the subs, late morning. Exile enters the dimly lit subs, shutting the door behind him. He walks along the corridor looking at the doors. Finding what he's looking for, he opens the door and steps inside. The room is small and functional and lit with a red light. There are a few old and battered standard grey filing cabinets here, but nothing else. Exile checks the index cards on the front of the cabinets and pulls open a drawer. Much like everything else in this area, the files inside are battered, the papers stuffed inside with no real thought. Exile quickly looks through but can't see what he's after. He closes the drawer and walks back out into the corridor. He shuts the door behind him, scratches his head, then tries the door opposite. It's locked.
Huh. Odd.
Exile forces the door open. The room is the same as the previous one. It's empty apart from one thing. Another Exile stood at the end of it. Exile Z. Exile closes the door and then sees Exile Z.
Huh?
Exile Z marches towards Exile. Point of view from the corridor. There is the sound of a struggle, then Exile Z comes out of the room and walks smartly towards the door. Exile Z stops at the door and pauses. It opens, and he walks through it. There is a short whoop of an alarm just as it closes behind him. End flashback. Interior, a bland canteen, stroke restaurant, early evening. Hero and Exile are sat in the same positions as before. Nothing has changed.
What did she do, Exile?
Nothing. She just asked me questions.
You could leave whenever you wanted to?
Exile Z nods. Hero puts the food in her mouth, watching him while she eats.
So why didn't you?
What is this? An interrogation? I'm Hero. I'm all right. I'm here. I'm safe.
Why didn't you leave, Exile?
Look, it was late by the time we finished.
Could have gone home all the same.
True, but I knew you were coming the next morning, so it seemed little point.
Do you trust her?
Exile Z pauses, then shrugs and nods.
Why?
I was with her for some time. I saw no reason not to.
What about him?
You mean me? Sure, why not? I mean, you trust me, don't you?
You're not him.
Hero carries on eating in silence while Exile Zed sits opposite her. Interior, Hero's apartment, window, night. Hero is looking over the city. There is lightning in the distance. Fade, 2. Interior, Hero's apartment, eating area, early morning. Hero and Exile Z are sat at the table in her apartment. There is no sign of Exile A.
Remind me again why we're doing this?
Exile Z grins and does an impression of the second supervisor.
Answers are coming.
Hero isn't impressed. Exile Z becomes a little more serious.
But, all right. Rather than multiple versions of yourself, think of them like sisters. If you knew one of them was in trouble, you'd want to help, right?
Hero begrudgingly nods.
So, where do we start?
Found the other one by the tram stop. Maybe that's where they all arrived.
Seems like a good place as any.
Exterior, near the alleyway, tram stop, mid-morning. With the alleyway, Exile A arrived in a short distance away. Hero and Exile Z are walking around the area, but aren't having any luck finding anything. Hero points at the alleyway.
Let's try there.
She walks over, Exile Z follows. An alleyway, continuous. The alley is unkempt, but clean. Hero and Exile Z look around for clues. A scruffy-looking woman wearing a dirty white jumpsuit appears at the end of the alleyway. This is Adrift. She sees Hero and Exile, turns around and quickly walks away. Hero spots their signals to Exile Z. They jog to the end of the alleyway to look for her. Exterior, near the alleyway tram stop, continuous. Back out on the street, Hero and Exile watch Adrift. She seems quite sure of herself, but tries to remain inconspicuous, turning her head away from passers-by.
Do you think she's...
Hero and Exile Z keep their distance, following Adrift until she vanishes into an apartment building. They follow her inside. Interior, Adrift's apartment block corridor, continuous. The place looks the same as the corridor in Hero's apartment block. Simple, clean, and basic. Adrift vanishes around the corner. Hero and Exile Z follow her. This next corridor is lined with doors and is empty.
I'm not sure I want to start knocking on doors.
Bit of a coincidence. She appears where we're looking. What if she's already found the third Exile?
I didn't think you had any time for duplicates.
I don't. But if finding him means finding out what's going on.
Halfway down the corridor, a door opens and the woman appears. Her white jumpsuit has numbers 1 to 5 written in black pen and crossed out. The number 3 is circled. Spotting Hero and Exile Z, number 3 darts back inside. Hero runs up to the door and holds it open with her foot as number 3 tries to push it shut. Exile Z stands next to Hero. They both push together. There is a shout from the other side, and Hero and Exile Z stagger inside as the door flies open. Interior, Adrift's apartment, entrance area, continuous. The place is the same as the one Hero lives in, however it's dark, dingy, and a lot messier. Nearly every available space has used notepads piled up on them. Numbers, words, equations are scribbled all over the walls. Number 3 is rubbing her arm and looking warily at Hero and Exile Z. Another woman, looking exactly the same as number 3, moves to help her. In amongst the scribbled numbers on her jumpsuit, she has the number 4 circled. It's then that Hero and Exile Z start to notice other people in the room too. They look the same as number 3 and number 4. They also wear white jumpsuits with the numbers 1 to 5 written and crossed out numerous times. One number is circled on each of them respectively. number 2, and number 5. Number 4 turns and looks at Hero and Exile Z. Hero and Exile Z look very uneasy as the numbers start closing in. A woman's voice calls from the back of the room.
What do you want with us?
The numbers continue to close.
We're looking for someone.
And now you found someone. Someone's.
Hero looks around at the numbers who are stood around her and Exile Z, their hands grasping, stroking. The voice takes on a more conspiratorial tone.
What?
Come on, let's go. There's nothing here. We're sorry to have disturbed you.
Hero turns to leave, but Exile Z stays where he is. He's intrigued by the numbered duplicates.
Exile, come on.
Aw, don't go. You've only just got here.
Exile Z stops Hero.
I thought you wanted to find out what's going on.
Think we'll find answers here?
Oh, you're looking for answers now. We thought you were looking for your friends.
Look around you. They seem to have more an idea of what's going on than we do.
Ideas now, too.
Come on, Hero, please.
Okay.
You're staying. Good.
There is a shuffling noise at the back of the room and a drift comes into view. She has a black pen tucked behind both ears and looks exactly the same as the other numbers. Her jumpsuit is also covered in crossed out numbers. The 1 circled is 1.
You changed. Can't be seen out there wearing this. No. People will think we're crazy.
A drift indicates her pen-covered jumpsuit. She comes a little closer.
So, what is it that you're after? Answers? Or ideas? What? Before you say anything, about a cup of tea.
Interior, a drift's apartment, eating area, a little later. Although it's the same as Hero's apartment, there are notepads everywhere and scribbles and equations on the walls. Hero and Exile Z are sat at the table with a drift. Like the walls, it's covered in equations and notepads. Number 2, number 3, and number 4 stand nearby. They watch, but don't speak. Number 5 comes over with a tray, also covered in scribbled equations. On it are white cups, saucers, and a teapot. Seeing all the stuff on the table, she pauses. A drift swipes the table clear.
That's it. Just stick it there. No, just stick it there.
Number 5 puts the tray down and stands back. Adrift pours the tea, herself, then Hero, finally Exile Z.
No. Looking for someone. Looking? How can we help?
Exile Z leans forward.
Yes, we're looking for someone. Someone like me, just like me.
Adrift looks at the numbers stood around her and smiles.
Just like you, A duplicate. Or a triplicate. But you've never seen as many as us before,
The numbers and Adrift all mule and mimsy together.
That's just it. Until recently, the only doubles I'd seen were twins.
Oh, not twins. No. Better than that. But be careful. Care is needed. Care is needed.
The numbers all murmur in agreement.
Here? Why? What do you mean?
Adrift looks serious but stays silent. Number 2 speaks.
One die, others die. One dies, others die. One dies.
Hero and Exile Z look confused. Adrift becomes more animated. She looks around, clicks her fingers and points at a stack of notepads. Number 5 picks them up and brings them over. Adrift looks adoringly at her as she does so.
Thank you, 5. So kind. So kind.
Adrift pushes aside the teapot and cups, clearing space on the table. She places a single book on it.
Universe.
She then adds more books, one at a time, to the pile.
Choices. Layers. Levels. Left to right. Up or down. Yes? Or no?
Adrift holds Hero's gaze with the last statement. Exile Z cuts across the two of them.
Layers, levels, alternate universes, whatever they're called, we know.
Adrift looks at Exile Z and continues. She runs her hands up and down the neat stack of notepads.
Lives. So many lives. So many choices. But we take one away.
Adrift lifts up half the stack of notepads, holding them above the rest. She nods at Exile Z to remove a notepad from the stack still on the table. Unsure of what Adrift is getting at, he cautiously takes the top one. Number 2 immediately swipes the rest flying off the table.
And the lives below are now gone.
Adrift hands the notepads to number 3, who puts them back where they came from. She sits with a knowing smile. The notepads on the floor stay where they are.
What you're saying
Yes.
is
Yes.
Adrift and all the numbers lean in expectantly.
the duplicate dies, and all the choices that would have been made aren't. They can't be. Therefore, the other, later versions can't exist.
Adrift and the numbers are delighted. She claps her hands for joy.
Yes. Yes. Twig split from branch. Branch splits from twig. Remove twig. Remove a branch. What level are you?
What? This level? I'm not a duplicate. What level are you? What level is he?
Hero gestures towards Exile Z. Exile Z looks uncomfortable.
Levels. Find the frequency. You find the level.
Hero, this isn't helping.
It's help you want from us now, huh? Wouldn't help, even if we wanted to. Far much to do. Others to be found. I found 4 already. Or is it 5? Is it 4 or 5? 4 or 5?
4 or 5. 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 4 or 5.
4 or 5. 4 or 5. 4 or 5.
4 or 5. 4 or
4 or 5. 4 or 5. 4 or 5. 4 or 5.
4 or 5. 4 or 5. 4 or 5. 4 or 5. 4.
The numbers keep chanting whilst Adrift grabs another notepad. She flicks through its pages, then throws it to one side, takes a pen from behind an ear, and starts writing on the table.
4 or 5. 4 or 5.
It's pointless.
Hero gets up to leave. Exile Z stops her. He's curious.
Wait, no, she's making sense of sorts.
Exile Z tries to interrupt Adrift as she continues with her calculations. She isn't listening and continues eagerly scribbling as he speaks. The numbers keep up their chorus throughout.
Excuse me. Hello, excuse me. Enough!
The numbers immediately stop. Adrift isn't fazed in the slightest. Holding Exile Z's gaze, she slowly puts down her pen. There is a strong tension in the air. Exile Z looks around him.
What is all this?
Adrift and the numbers keep staring at Exile Z.
When we found someone, how do we know what level they are? What if they're Duplicates? What if we're the duplicates after all?
Adrift points at number 3.
What if we are higher level than us? What if we died? What would happen to the rest of us? We think that that's 3, but what if we were 3? What happens then? More are coming. There could be more out there. So we need to find us. We need to find the frequency.
Adrift returns to scribbling her equations on the tabletop.
All right, what if we could take you to someone who is also looking for frequencies?
Adrift stops what she's doing. Hero looks very unsure.
I'm not sure this is a good idea.
But maybe they've already found the frequency you're looking for.
Adrift is hooked. Hero looks increasingly concerned.
What about the third exile? We're looking for him, not frequencies.
Exile Z turns to Hero. He gestures towards Adrift.
If they can find the right frequencies, rather than one exile, we can find all of them.
He turns back to Adrift.
We can find all of you.
Interior, Hero's apartment, sleeping area, early morning. The alarm clock ticks to 6 a.m. and Hero's eyes flick open. She rolls over from her side onto her back. Exterior, out in the street later. Hero is walking smartly along the road. She's wearing her usual white jumpsuit. She stops to cross a road and the long black car screeches to a stop in front of her. The door opens. Hero pauses. The voice comes from inside the car.
Do we need to ask? Politely?
Hero gets into the car and it drives away. A couple of passers-by stop and watch it go. Most don't. Interior, facility viewing room, later still. Hero and Exile Z are stood in the room. The second supervisor stands by the door. The head of facility stands by the window watching the room below. Various white and red jumpsuits work on the machine. The place is a hive of activity. Adrift and the numbers are with her. The numbers are holding stacks of notepads. Adrift animatedly dashes back and forth from the machine to her notepads, which she flicks through, then lets drop to the floor.
So you found these?
She mentioned frequencies, how she was looking for them. I remember that you mentioned frequencies as well.
Indeed. Let's see if that's true.
The head of facility holds up a finger and taps at the glass. The people in the room below stop and look up at the head of facility. Adrift, seeing everyone has stopped, also looks up, a notepad falling from her hands as she does. The head of facility nods. One of the supervisors nods back and throws a large switch. A humming sound builds. Dials and tapes whir and whirl. An image slowly appears on the screen of the machine. It is head of facility A, a duplicate of the head of facility. The head of facility smiles as she pulls out an old-fashioned walkie-talkie. The head of facility A does the same.
I knew you'd be ready.
Of course. After all, we are the same person. Just a few
changes here and there. I know.
Hero and Exile are fascinated, drawing closer to the window.
Is this?
Keeping her attention on the screen, the head of facility answers over her shoulder.
What could have been? Yes.
The head of facility speaks again into the walkie-talkie.
You know why I had to contact you?
Of course. The duplicates. You are one of our closest levels. How bad is it there?
Some. Been happening for a few months. You?
Worse. They arrive every day.
The head of facility considers what she's heard.
Have you spoken to any other levels?
No. Just like you, we only found her yesterday.
There is some motion on screen and Adrift A is seen in the room below looking up at the head of facility A. Adrift turns from looking up at the window and sees herself on the viewing screen behind her. She slowly walks forward.
Fixed?
Adrift picks up her pace and waves eagerly. Equally excited, the numbers drop the notepads they're holding and begin to wave too. Adrift runs to the microphone on the desk and speaks into it. On the screen, Adrift A does the same.
6? Six? Where 6? Oh, we thought.
Adrift dives on the notepads, frantically searching and throwing them aside when she can't see what she's looking for. The numbers help her look. The head of facility in the viewing room speaks into her walkie-talkie.
She will help us reach other, further levels. We can check how bad things are there.
On screen, the head of facility A nods.
Indeed. And now we have swapped frequencies. We can speak with each other easily.
Indeed. I shall call you later to speak further. Compare findings.
I shall be here. Over.
I know. Over and out.
The head of facility puts the walkie-talkie back into a pocket.
Well, I'd call that a success. Thank you, Exile, for bringing them here. With them, I do not need you anymore, Hero. You can go back to what it was you were doing before.
That's it? You promised answers.
What do you want me to say? You saw me speak to another level, thereby proving that they exist. You know people are crossing over, creating the duplicates you've seen. I don't know what else I can say.
Why? Why are people crossing over?
I told you, you can't fit infinity into a finite amount of space.
It was never a problem before. Why now? What's happened?
The head of facility turns her attention to the viewing window.
That's what I'm going to find out.
The supervisor steps forward to usher Hero and Exile Z out of the room. The head of facility stays looking out of the observation window. Interior, Hero's apartment, sleeping area, early evening. Alone, Hero is sat in her chair reading her book. She flicks over a page, then stops. She thinks for a moment, shuts it, and leaves the apartment. Interior, a bland canteen/restaurant, early evening. Hero is sat in a booth with a tray of food in front of her. Sat opposite is Exile Z. Exile A takes a seat next to Exile Z, his hair brushed differently to distinguish him from his duplicate.
Nice hair.
Exile A smiles. Hero looks a little unsure. Exile A looks at Hero, then Exile Z, and pretends to look put out.
People have seen us together already, you know.
Exile A picks up a piece of her food, pops it in his mouth, and winks. Hero smiles, then looks around the canteen and notices a pair of twins. Or are they duplicates? She walks over to them.
Who are you?
I'm sorry?
Who are you? What's your name? What's his name?
The man looks confused. Hero walks up. Another man sat at a different table.
How about you? Is there another one of you at home or out there somewhere?
Exile Z comes over.
Hero, come on.
Hero turns to Exile Z as Exile A joins him.
How many? How many are out there?
She calls out to another couple sat at a table.
There's not enough space. Not enough.
Exile Z and Exile A help Hero out of the canteen. Interior, Hero's apartment, sleeping area, later. Hero is in bed asleep. Exile Z and Exile A are watching her.
Hopefully she'll rest now.
Exile A nods. He looks at Exile Z for a moment.
Funny. Looking at you and wondering what decision it was that I made.
Or didn't make.
True. Or didn't make.
Exile A looks affectionately at the sleeping Hero.
I wonder when we'll start to find her duplicates.
Something we don't have to worry about. The facility will take care of that now.
A momentary flash of concern crosses Exile A's face.
Come on, let's leave her asleep.
Exile Z and Exile A leave the apartment. Interior, corridor, outside Hero's apartment, continuous. Exile Z and Exile A walk a little way down the corridor. Exile A pauses.
What do you think the facility will do with them? The duplicates it finds, I mean.
Not our problem.
You'd see things differently if you'd made that leap. The confusion, the realization that everything is different. I'm not sure the facility is the best place for them.
Like I said, not our problem.
But it is our problem. This isn't some stranger we're talking about. This is us.
A strange look comes over Exile Z's face. He steps forward and holds Exile A's head in his hands and looks into his eyes.
We always ask too many questions. That's our problem.
Exile Z smiles at Exile A. He gives Exile A's head a twist, snapping his neck.
There. Problem solved.
There is a thump as the body crumples to the floor. Fade to interior, Hero's apartment sleeping area, early morning. Open with close-up on alarm clock. Hero's eyes flick open at 6 a.m. and she rolls over onto her back. Exterior, main steps outside archives, later. Archives looks just as it always does, washed out and functional. People wearing white jumpsuits head inside. Hero walks steadily up the steps and into the building. Interior. The stacks inside archives, mid-morning. Hero is in the middle of one of the stacks. Her nearly empty trolley is at the end of the row. A supervisor brings up a full trolley and walks away, leaving it. Hero sighs, walks up to the trolley and looks over at a group of white jumpsuits stood by the desk. Exile Z is with them. Whilst the others chat and laugh, Exile Z is staring at Hero. He gives a small smile. Hero gives a small nod of hello, then puts her head down and carries on filing. Exterior, main steps outside archives, late afternoon. Hero leaves the building and heads to the tram stop. Interior, Hero's apartment, reading area, early evening. Hero is sat in the chair in her apartment reading her book. She turns the page. Interior, Hero's apartment, window, night. Hero stands by the window looking at the city and watching the silent thunderstorm in the distance. Fade to interior, Hero's apartment, sleeping area, early morning. The alarm clock changes from 6 a.m. Hero opens her eyes and rolls over onto her back. Exterior, out on the street, later. Hero is walking smartly alongside the road. She turns a corner and stops to cross. The long black car screeches to a stop in front of her. The door opens.
That you didn't need me anymore.
A voice comes from inside the car.
Indulge us.
Hero gets into the car. Interior, the machine room, a little later. The head of facilities stood, arms folded behind her, looking at the machine whilst red and white jumpsuits attend to it. Exile Z stands nearby between Hero and the head of facility, his hands behind his back too. To one side, Adrift and the numbers are arguing. Each has a black pen which they use to cross out numbers on each other and replace with another. They bicker incessantly.
No. We found you. We found you first. Wait. What? Oh, it's this. Oh.
The head of facility turns back to Hero.
You've hit upon a snag. This group you found, it isn't working.
I don't see how.
You brought them here.
Even the numbers stop at this outburst. There is a beat. Adrift and the numbers start up their bickering once again.
But, Exile, you came with me. It was you who suggested.
Exile Z only gives a strange half-smile in reply.
Exile?
The head of facility turns back to the machine.
I have not been able to speak to anyone on this machine since yesterday.
The head of facility turns back towards Hero and walks slowly around her as she speaks.
I thought I was helping you, Hero. Helping your friend here find himself.
The head of facility turns to Exile Z and smiles. Exile Z smiles back. It's emotionless. The kind of smile a shark would give.
Instead, you bring me these saboteurs.
Adrift and the numbers stop again. They look towards the head of facility. The head of facility looks at them, thinking.
Maybe they can be useful.
The head of facility gives XLZ a nod. XLZ smartly pulls out the pistol he has been holding behind his back and shoots Adrift, who collapses onto the floor. Pandemonium breaks out amongst the numbers.
No!
Hero races over to Adrift. The numbers, highly distressed, babble and panic around her. Hero is kneeling down by Adrift. A lot of blood is pouring from somewhere vital. Adrift is dying, and quickly. She looks at Hero intently, speaking with effort. She smiles, then turns that smile to the numbers around her. She sees number 5 and beckons her forward. Number 5 kneels beside Adrift. Adrift puts her hand out to stroke her face. With that, Adrift dies. The numbers fall silent as one by one they fade away. There is a beat as silence falls across the room.
I guess that answers that question.
The head of facility turns to one of the supervisors near the machine. She tips her finger at one of them.
Try it again. Now.
Hero steps away from Adrift's body, in shock but not in tears.
I don't. Why? Why?
An idea. An experiment.
She turns again to the supervisor.
Now, please.
The white and red jumpsuits all start working a little more enthusiastically.
And this is when you kill me?
Kill you? I'm not an animal. But that doesn't mean you can't cause problems. I think it's best I keep you somewhere safe, in case I have need for you.
The head of facility nods at Exile Z. Exile Z points the gun at Hero and motions for her to leave. The head of facility turns back to the machine. Interior, a corridor inside the facility moments later. The corridor is typically bland and blank. Hero walks ahead of Exile Z, who is still pointing the gun at her.
Why, Exile? What happened?
When is exile not exile?
You're the third exile.
Well done.
What about the other one? The real exile?
Oh, he's safe. You'll meet him soon.
Safe? What do you mean? And what about the second, third, the other exile?
Let's just say, once you've broken one exile, breaking others becomes so much easier.
Exile Z stops in front of a door. He opens it and motions Hero inside. A small storage room, continuous. The room is a cramped storeroom of some sort. Exile Z shuts the door and turns to Hero.
I shouldn't. But as I said, once you've broken one.
Hero looks for a way out as Exile Zed approaches with a strange look in his eyes.
I know you've been thinking about this.
Hero goes still, then lashes out as Exile Zed comes closer. He falls to the floor. Hero runs out of the room into the corridor. Interior, a corridor inside the facility, continuous. Hero pulls the door shut and starts to run back the way she came, but the place is a maze, and she's soon lost. A random white jumpsuit-wearing guy comes down the corridor towards her. Hero smartens herself up and approaches him.
Hi, excuse me. I've recently transferred from archives. Need some fresh air and a bit lost.
Yeah, sure. There's a fire escape just around the corner.
Thank you.
Hero walks quickly to where she was directed. She turns a corner and finds the fire exit propped open with an old book. She walks through, kicking the book away and letting the door shut behind her as she walks out into the open air. Exterior, out on the street, moments later. Hero is walking smartly back to facility tram stop. She slows down and stops, then walks in the opposite direction. Exterior, near the alleyway facility tram stop, a little later. Hero walks over to the alleyway, pausing for a moment to gather her bearings. She heads in the same direction as when she followed Adrift. Interior, Adrift's apartment, block corridor, moments later. Hero walks up to Adrift's apartment and, surprised to find it open, walks inside. Interior, Adrift's apartment, continuous. The room is exactly as it was left, scribbles on the walls, piles of filled-in notepads everywhere. Hero heads a little further and sees the notepads number 3 swept off the table. They're still on the floor. There is a noise at the back of the room. Hero is instantly on guard. She looks for somewhere to hide. A woman wearing a white jumpsuit covers in scribbles and equations comes into view. Around her neck is a notepad on a string. She looks exactly the same as Adrift and the numbers. This is the original Adrift, Adrift Prime. She has a black pen behind each ear, holds a notepad in one hand and another pen in the other.
Yep. Oh, time for a cup of tea.
Adrift Prime dances from foot to foot. She sees Hero and stops.
Oh, it's you.
Hero stands up.
Not 6, 7. One more.
Hero walks slowly towards Adrift Prime.
So sorry, can't go back to my place, so I thought.
Adrift Prime looks a little confused.
Where are we?
Hero looks confused. Adrift Prime tries to look around Hero.
Where are we?
Hero is still unsure.
Where are we? Where are we? Where are we?
Hero now realizes who Adrift Prime is asking for. She puts a hand out to offer some comfort.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Adrift Prime lets the notepad and pen drop from her hands.
No. No.
Hero tentatively walks forward. Adrift Prime looks around, searching, lost.
No 1. Not 2. No 3. No 4. No 5. No 1.
She shakily sits down.
We couldn't go. We couldn't. If we go, if we die, the rest dies. So we stay at home. We always stay at home.
Adrift Prime slides off the chair now on her knees. Head bowed, she starts to make a keening noise. She tips her head back, looks around her, and stands up.
Weightless. Useless.
She sweeps notepads off the sides, tears at the walls. She looks at her jumpsuit as though she has insects crawling up her arms. Horrified, she swipes at them.
Levels. Frequencies. Oh, levels. Frequencies. It's pointless. Pointless.
Adrift Prime crumbles in on herself, tips her head back and wails. Interior. Adrift's apartment. Eating area. Later. Adrift Prime is sat at the table, emotionally worn out. Hero is sat with her. There is a pot of tea and 2 cups and saucers on the table. Neither Adrift Prime nor Hero say anything for a beat.
I don't even know your name.
Thinking slowly, Adrift Prime looks at Hero.
We are adrift. Forever adrift. Were you there? Did you see it?
Hero nods.
What happened? Tell us. Please tell us.
It was number 1. He was shot.
Who was it, please? Who killed us?
Hero pauses, not wanting to think of the event.
Do you remember the man I was with?
He was the one that wanted us to go. The one that talked us into it.
I'm so sorry.
He's your friend?
No, he isn't. That's not Exile. That's a...
Hero falls silent. A single tear rolls down Adrift Prime's cheek. Interior. Hero's apartment, sleeping area, early morning. Close up on the alarm clock showing the time as being 5:59 a.m. It changes to 6 a.m. A finger switches it off. Exile Z stands in Hero's room, a bruise on his face. Rather than the neat space it's always been, the place is ransacked. Exile Z storms out. Interior. Adrift's apartment, sleeping area, simultaneous. Hero is curled up on a scribble-covered armchair. She blearily opens an eye and stretches. The apartment looks even more of a mess, notepads thrown all over the place, the numbers and equations over the walls scribbled over. Hero looks over at the bed. It's empty. Adrift Prime is sat at the table. The pot of tea and 2 cups are still there. She has a notepad on string around her neck. Hero stands up, stretches again, and sits at the table.
My friend, he's still alive. He has to be. Otherwise, the other one, he wouldn't still be here.
Adrift Prime stays motionless, saying nothing, only her eyes moving.
I need to go to archives. There's something there in the subs. Whatever happened to Exile happened there. Are you going to be okay?
After a beat, Adrift Prime speaks.
I will stay here.
Hero reaches over and takes Adrift Prime's hand. Exterior, on the street, early morning. Keeping herself to herself, Hero walks with purpose. There is a commotion. She looks over and sees someone talking to a duplicate. They look around for help. Nobody comes. Exterior. Main steps outside archives a few minutes later. A few people enter the building. Hero strides up the steps and does so too. Interior. The stacks inside archives mid-morning. Hero is working diligently, a trolley filled with books and paperwork next to her. The supervisor comes past, pushing a trolley. Hero bumps his trolley with hers. Books and paperwork spill all over the floor.
Be careful. These are valuable.
I'm so sorry. Here, let me help.
Hero starts putting books and papers back onto the supervisor's trolley. Unnoticed, she palms an old copy of À la recherche du temps perdu by Proust and adds it to her trolley. Books back in place, the supervisor turns to Hero.
More care is needed.
He turns away, pushing the trolley. Hero watches him go and looks over at the main desk. There is a flicker. Exile is stood there with a group of people. He looks over and smiles. There is another flicker, and Exile Zed stands staring at Hero. There is another flicker, and the desk is empty again. Hero pauses, but whatever just happened doesn't happen again. She picks up the book she palmed and walks over to the desk. Main desk, continuous. There is a librarian wearing a white jumpsuit working behind the large desk. She looks up as Hero approaches.
Hi there.
Hero puts the book on the desk.
Looks like a misfile. I'll run it down to the subs. I just need a short-term clearance.
The librarian stops what she's doing and looks at Hero, then the book. She shrugs her shoulders and taps into a computer.
30 minutes.
Thank you.
Hero picks up the book and heads down to the subs. Interior, outside the subs, moments later. Hero walks up to the door to the subs, stands in front of it for a moment. There is a click. The door swings open. She looks around, then walks in, closing the door behind her. In the subs, Hero notices the door Exile previously broke. It's been replaced with a large steel door. Hero tries the handle, but it's not moving. Noticing the book in her hand, she opens another door and walks inside. There is a beat. Hero leaves the side room without the book and walks back to the main door. The door opens. Hero leaves the subs. Exterior, main steps outside archives late afternoon. Hero leaves and heads back to Adrift's apartment. Interior, Adrift's apartment, eating area, later. The place is still a mess. Notepads and scribbles everywhere. Hero and Adrift Prime are sat at the table.
There's something there. A steel door. But subs is restricted, so why go to all that trouble?
No luck.
No. Locked. There seems more duplicates, too. Whatever's happening, it's getting worse. Maybe you could look for more?
No. No more.
But there must be more out there. There must be.
No. I am adrift.
How do you know?
I know. I can't heal any more of us. They were the last.
You can't feel them?
Adrift Prime stands and looks at the equations on the wall.
Levels. Frequencies.
Hero joins her. She picks up a notepad, flicks through it.
Can you feel it all?
Adrift Prime isn't listening. She's transfixed by equations.
Is that what these are? You can see it? See them? The other layers? The levels? Frequencies? Is that how you found them?
Adrift Prime turns to Hero.
Know them. Just me. I am adrift.
When I was in archives today, I saw something, a flicker. My friend was there, and then he wasn't.
Running out of space.
Yes, but what does that mean?
Adrift Prime picks up a notepad and places it on the table.
Universe.
She stacks further notepads on top of it.
Levels. Layers. Alternate universes. Whatever.
Hero nods. Adrift Prime picks up the top notepad and tears out the pages. She throws the cover away.
Level. Go on.
Adrift Prime then stuffs the pages into the next notepad.
Make space. Make space.
Adrift Prime then picks up this notepad.
2 universes.
She tears out all the pages in this notepad and stuffs as many as she can into the next one. When it becomes clear there is no more room, she puts a few pages into those notepads further down the pile.
Make space. Make space.
Why? What's happening to them?
Adrift Prime shrugs.
I only feel.
You can feel. Can you reach out? Change things?
The look on Adrift Prime's face shows she doesn't understand. Hero looks around and picks up a few notepads. Adrift Prime watches Hero lay out 3 notepads in a vertical line on the table. Hero finds a black pen on the floor. She puts it on the bottom of the 3 notepads, then points at Adrift Prime.
You.
Hero tears a couple of pages out of the middle and top notepads and places them into the bottom one. She looks at Adrift Prime. Adrift Prime is silent for a moment, then nods.
Yes?
Hero is excited. An idea is forming.
I want you to come to Archives with me tomorrow.
No. No. Mm-mm.
But the door and the subs. Maybe you could, I don't know, change it back?
No.
Hero looks disappointed, but nods in understanding.
That's okay. It's okay. I'm sure I'll think of something.
Interior, Adrift's apartment, window, night. Adrift Prime is asleep in bed, muttering in her sleep. Hero stands at the window. It's a view across the street rather than the view from her apartment. She looks at Adrift Prime, then back to the window. There are lights outside from a passing car. Hero spots someone watching from the other side of the road. It's Exile Z. She immediately ducks back, then shakes Adrift Prime awake.
Come on, wake up. We've got to go.
What?
Hero bundles a few bits together.
They're here.
Who?
Him, the facility. They're here.
Adrift Prime immediately wakes up and clambers out of bed. She looks around and puts a notepad around her neck.
You need to go now.
Hero and Adrift Prime sprint to the apartment door. Interior, Adrift's apartment, block corridor, continuous. Hero and Adrift Prime see Exile Z and a couple of supervisors in the corridor. They've not seen either of them yet.
Come, this way.
The 2 of them run down the corridor. In the background is the sound of Adrift's apartment door being kicked in. They turn to another corridor. Adrift Prime stops for a moment, counting on her fingers. Hero watches anxiously. Adrift Prime purposefully walks forward, stopping at a wall. There is a small flicker, then another, and it becomes a fire escape. Adrift Prime turns to Hero and gives a smile.
Regulations. Different.
Hero throws open the fire escape door and she and Adrift Prime run outside as alarms sound. A beat, and Exile Z then runs through the door. He stops and looks around. He's lost his quarry, and he's not happy. He slams the door against its hinges, then turns back to the street. The door behind him becomes a wall again. Looking to go back inside the apartment complex, Exile Z stands staring at where the door used to be. Fade 2. Interior, Hero's apartment, sleeping area, early morning. The alarm changes to 6 a.m. Exile Z is sat on the corner of Hero's bed. The apartment has been trashed, destroyed. Exile Z grabs the alarm clock and, raging, smashes it to pieces. Exterior, facility tram stop alleyway, early morning. Hero and Adrift Prime are asleep in a corner of the alley. They wake up and move around slowly, easing stiff muscles.
I had an idea. I know how to get you inside, into the subs, I mean.
Hero beckons for the notepad around Adrift Prime's neck. Adrift Prime cautiously hands it over. Hero writes something, then tears out the page and passes it over.
That's the name of the book I took down there yesterday. It's rare and valuable, but maybe you can talk someone into taking you to see it.
Adrift Prime looks at the paper.
You sure you're okay doing this?
Got nowhere else to go.
She gives a weak smile. Interior, Archives, main desk, mid-morning. Adrift Prime scuttles up to the desk. The librarian stops what she's doing, looks at her, but doesn't say anything. Adrift Prime closes her eyes and gathers herself. She pushes the piece of paper over and smiles.
This book, please.
The librarian looks at the paper and types into the computer. She looks back at Adrift Prime.
This book is restricted. May I ask why you want to see it?
Adrift Prime is caught off guard a little.
Research? Yes, research, please.
The librarian looks at Adrift Prime for a moment, then...
Wait here, please. Someone will need to go with you.
Adrift Prime smiles and waits. So far, so good. Interior, the stacks, inside Archives, continuous. Hero is watching Adrift Prime at the main desk. The supervisor comes to the end of the row, pauses, then walks up to Hero.
Yeah, bad start.
Hero stops speaking, a curious look on her face.
Continue.
Strangest feeling of deja vu.
There is a crash from one of the other stacks as a duplicate arrives.
Hello? Where am I? I don't remember. Can someone... Please?
The supervisor looks at Hero, then quickly goes to see what's going on. Hero takes the opportunity to follow after Adrift Prime, who is now being led to the subs by a library assistant. Interior, outside the subs, moments later. Adrift Prime and the library assistant stand by the door to the subs. With a click, it swings open. They walk through. Just before it swings shut, Hero slips inside too. Interior, the subs, continuous. The library assistant is leading Adrift Prime down the corridor. Hero walks up behind him and thumps him hard on the back of the head. He staggers, but isn't knocked out and turns to see Hero.
What the?
I'm sorry.
Hero opens one of the doors and pushes the man inside.
Hey, stop, hey!
She holds the door shut and nods towards the metal door.
There, that one.
Adrift Prime sees the steel door and pauses in front of it. There is a flicker, then another. It reverts to an ordinary door. Adrift Prime looks pleased.
How long will it stay like that?
Never counted.
Still holding the door shut, Hero psychs herself up.
Okay.
Hero and Adrift both nod in time.
1, 2, 3.
Adrift Prime opens the no longer steel door and runs through, closely followed by Hero. The library assistant runs back out into the corridor and is surprised to see all the doors now looking the same. He looks up and down the corridor, opens a couple of doors to see if Hero and Exile are inside. The steel door returns. A room in the subs, continuous. Hero and Adrift Prime are looking around the same, long, featureless room where Exile met Exile Z.
There's nothing here.
Adrift Prime shrugs and shakes her head.
This might have been a mistake.
Adrift Prime gestures towards the metal door.
Bring it back?
Hero isn't really listening.
Just don't. I go to all this trouble.
Knocking on the walls, Hero finds the back is a hollow. She stands back, psyching herself up to give it a kick. Adrift Prime stops her and concentrates. The wall flickers and vanishes, revealing a long, well-lit corridor. Adrift Prime grins.
No need for a secret door here.
Hero and Adrift Prime head into the corridor. After only a few steps, Adrift Prime stops.
Oh,
Hero stops and looks as Adrift Prime starts to fade away. Adrift Prime looks down at her hands and smiles, a sad smile.
stuck.
What? I don't know what you mean.
Adrift Prime turns to look behind her. The wall fades back into view, and as it does so, Adrift Prime fades away.
Wherever adrift.
Hero pauses for a moment, then stills herself and heads down the corridor. Interior, a corridor in the facility moments later. A door opens and Hero steps out. She looks around, finding her bearings. There are footsteps approaching. She smartens herself. The random white jumpsuit wearing guy Hero saw earlier comes around the corner.
It's a transfer from archives. You're lost, I see.
Yeah, this place is a maze. I mean, I have no idea where I am.
Well, I don't know how you got here. It's restricted access, but at the end of that corridor, turn left, and you'll find your way back out again.
Thank you so much. The way things are going today, you'll probably see me again in 10 minutes.
The random white jumpsuit wearing guy laughs and carries on his way. Hero watches him go and then heads in the opposite direction. She turns a corner and bumps into Exile Zed, who smiles humorlessly.
You came back.
There is a thump. Fade to interior facility cells later. Hero painfully opens her eyes and looks around, then a little more frantically when she sees she's lying on a cell floor. She sits up, scooches herself over to a corner. Exile, the original Exile, is sat on the corner of the bed watching her. He's in bad shape. He smiles, wincing as he does so.
You came back.
Exile?
Yup. The one and the same.
But how do I?
Look at me, Hero. Do you really think I do this to myself?
I don't know, there's some strange people out there.
Yeah. And I think I've been meeting most of them.
Exile chuckles and then winces again. The head of facility enters the holding area, a couple of supervisors with her.
Oh, good. You're awake. Shall we begin?
She turns to the red jumpsuits, points at Hero, then smiles. Interior, the machine room, later still. Hero is strapped onto what looks like a hospital bed with leather wrist and ankle restraints. Her head is held in place with another leather restraint, a rubber bite guard in her mouth, wires running from a metal skull cap into the machine. There are a few red and white jumpsuits working on the machine. The head of facility stands at the foot of the bed, looking at Hero.
I'm sorry, Hero. Drastic times call for drastic measures. You've seen things are getting worse. How? There are more duplicates?
She pats Hero's foot.
Of course you have.
She walks around the bed. Hero can only follow her with her eyes.
All this is dying, and that troubles me.
The head of facility sits next to Hero and looks around her.
Do you know what this universe we live in really is? And how about the duplicates? Would you like to know where they're coming from?
Hero can only look at the head of facility.
I know, you see. I found out.
The head of facility stands up again and walks to the head of the bed.
These layers, these levels, all those alternate universes, they aren't what you think they are. They're not choices, but what ifs. The what could have beens, the maybes. Not every decision, but every thought.
The head of facility walks around the bed again.
For a little while, I considered dyeing my hair, trying something different.
Unable to say anything, Hero just watches.
Like a tree, every idea branches into another. What opportunities become available to the redhead I imagined myself to be? How different would things have been? What layers did she bring about just by thinking about them? So yes, somewhere there's another me with red hair rather than brown.
The head of facility stops at the head of the bed again.
Or rather, there isn't. Because these thoughts, these what ifs, aren't mine.
She stands over Hero and looks into her eyes.
They're yours.
There is a beat whilst the head of facilities lets everything sink in.
A twig has a branch. A branch has a trunk. You are that trunk, Hero. We are living inside a memory. Your memory of a single day that you are oh so desperately trying to hold on to.
The head of facility walks around the bed again.
Every one of us is an echo, a wisp of what could have been. We here are the last between what could have been and what really was. If we go, the memory, the original memory, will be overrun with duplicates. Confusion and chaos reigns. I'm sure you don't want that to happen.
The head of facility pauses in front of the machine.
This machine will use your brain waves to create stability. Things will be different, that's true, but with you safe and well, we can look to restore those lost layers. All you need to do is imagine.
The head of facility turns to Hero.
Maybe you're already doing it. Imagining your escape, feeling the breeze of the outdoors on your face. Good.
The head of facility looks off to a side. She points at one of the supervisors. He nods and leaves the room. The head of facility sits on the bed next to Hero again.
You will stay here, Hero. I cannot allow you to leave. You understand that, don't you? This is for the best. And as for that escape...
XLZ comes into view in the viewing room, looking over the room.
As the phrase goes, if ifs and ands were pots and pans, beggars would ride horses. I give you the cavalry.
Another 6 exile duplicates enter the viewing room. They line up with XLZ. The head of facility turns to Hero.
It would seem you think about some people quite a lot more than others. Oh, I could have had an army of them if it just hadn't been for, well, let's just say Exile's line ends up there.
The head of facility nods at XLZ. XLZ smiles and waves from the viewing room.
And like I always say, break one exile.
Hero looks around the room. It would appear this is indeed the end of the line for her too. POV Hero. Hero looks at the ankle restraints and sees a flicker as they vanish, then return. Hero gives no indication of this.
I will, of course, come in and check on you from time to time. That only seems fair. But for now, this is goodbye.
As the head of facility stands up and starts to walk away, there is an almighty crash from the other side of the room.
What? Where am I?
The head of facility moves out of Hero's sight. There is movement. Then the head of facility shouting,
You can see who it is! Help me!
Hero looks down at her wrist restraints, a flicker, and she strains against them. Nothing. Another and again Hero strains, and again, nothing. Anticipating the next flicker, Hero wrenches her hand free, leaving the now empty restraint attached to the bed, out of point of view. Hero pulls the device off her head, removes the bite guard, unties her other hand, her feet, and climbs off the bed. Exile Z sees this from a window and angrily directs the other exiles to stop, Hero escaping. Hero looks around her. The various supervisors and the head of facility are looking after the confused head of facility A. A couple of white jumpsuits see Hero, but say nothing. Hero dashes out of the room. Interior, the corridor inside the facility, continuous. Hero looks up and down the corridor. She hears movement coming from one end of it. Hero, Exile Z, holding the pistol, and the other exile's duplicates appear. They see Hero and run towards her. Hero runs in the opposite direction, running down several corridors before opening a door and heading inside. Interior, facility cells, continuous. Hero sees Exile, original, and runs up to the cell bars. She tries the door. Exile watches sympathetically.
It's locked.
Yes, but maybe.
Hero stands back and tries to focus herself, much like Adrift Prime did. Nothing happens. She tries again, still nothing.
Hero.
In frustration, Hero shakes the bars. Nothing is moving them.
I can't.
Please. Please, Hero. Just go.
Exile Z enters the room holding his pistol. He sees Hero and Exile and smiles.
We'd rather you stay.
The other Exile duplicates also enter. Hero faces Exile Z.
You know you can't kill me. What about all of this?
She indicates the room around her.
No, you're right. But I can still hurt you.
Exile Z walks towards Hero. Hero lashes out, knocking the pistol from his hand. It's futile. Exile Z and his duplicates start dragging her away. Exile Z pauses, laughing. Exile stands in the cell, holding the pistol.
I don't think there's enough for all of us.
Exile pops open the gun, sees 4 bullets, chambered. Exile Z smiles. Exile smiles back.
I only need one.
He smartly puts the gun to his head and pulls the trigger. Falls to the floor, dead. The gun skitters from his hand.
No!
Killed us!
Exile Z and the other exiles fade away. Hero drops to her knees and crawls over to Exile, sobbing heavily. Another crash outside. She gathers her thoughts, picks up the pistol and herself, then runs back out into the corridor. Interior facility corridors, continuous. The facility is in pandemonium as things go from bad to worse. Hero makes her way down corridors, but everyone is far too involved in what's going on to notice her. She finds the open fire escape once again and heads outside. Exterior, on the street, moments later. Hero walks as quickly as she can, checking behind her to see if she's being followed. There are a few confused people around. Several duplicates too. Things are rapidly falling apart. Hero turns a corner. The long black car cuts across her path. The door opens. Inside is the head of facility with the head of facility A.
Where are you going, Hero?
Hero looks for one last way out, somewhere, anywhere.
There is nowhere else.
Hero pulls out the gun, pointing it at the head of facility.
Out of the car.
Hero. Hero. isn't.
Now!
The head of facility gets out the car.
Both of you.
The head of facility looks at Hero.
Where will you go?
I don't know. Anywhere. Out of this city.
But Hero, you've never left the city.
First time for everything.
You still do not understand me. Have you not wondered why everything looks so similar? You have no memory of what's out there. Your brain is filling blanks, but your imagination has its limits.
The head of facility opens a nearby door. Behind it is a blinding white light. She turns to Hero with sympathy.
You have no idea what's out there, Hero. Come back to me. To us. Stay with us. Stay with us.
Weighing her options, Hero looks between the gun, the head of facility, and the door with the white light behind it.
I don't know what's out there beyond this city. Guess I'll find out.
Hero leaps into the light. There is a rushing sound as the light becomes more and more intense. Fade 2. Interior. A 1960s bedsit apartment, early morning. The following scenes take place in a 1960s Birmingham. A bell-topped alarm clock rests on a wooden bedside table. It ticks over to 6 o'clock, and the alarm goes off. Hero's hand reaches out and switches it off. She rolls onto her back, taking a moment to gather thoughts before swinging her legs out of bed and heading to an ensuite bathroom. A little distance away from the bed is a chair with a book resting on the arm. There is also a large window looking over the city. Montage. Hero is now back out of the bathroom. There is a skirt and blouse on the bed. Hero is eating breakfast. Hero catches a bus travelling into the centre of the city. Exterior. A bus stop in the centre of Birmingham. Later. Hero steps off the bus and heads towards the city. She sees someone looking exactly like Adrift, dressed in a motley assortment of clothes and feeding the pigeons.
We all are? Oh.
Adrift counts the grain as she hands it out.
1, 2, 3.
Hero gives her some change. Adrift looks up from her pigeons. Hero nods in acknowledgement, then carries on her way. Exterior, main steps of Birmingham Library moments later. Hero runs up the steps of the library and heads inside. Interior, the library archival stacks, late morning. Hero is putting away a selection of books and files, which are on a trolley at the end of the row. A supervisor walks past and changes Hero's near-empty trolley for the full one. Hero watches as the supervisor leaves.
Thanks.
She spots Exile stood by the main desk talking to a group of people. He catches Exile looking at him and smiles. Hero allows herself a little smile back. Exterior, main steps of Birmingham Library, late afternoon. Hero leaves the library, jogging down the steps. Interior, a restaurant, early evening. A flash, and Hero and Exile, both smartly dressed, are sat at opposite each other at a booth table. The restaurant has colourful booths around the outside and freestanding tables and chairs in the middle. There are some nibbles in the middle of the table. A photographer stood at the end of it.
I'll have this ready for you as soon as you leave. Have a great time.
Hero looks unsure. Exile takes one of the nibbles and pops it into his mouth. He pretends to look put out.
People have seen us together already, you know?
I know, but it feels like we're making it official.
We are, aren't we?
Hero sits back in her seat.
Yes, No, I don't know. With you going away, it complicates things.
Oh, come with me. It's only 6 months.
6 months exiled to some backwater.
I'd hardly call the United States exile.
But this city, it's all I've known. My life is here.
Well, if you change your mind, here's where I'll be staying. Just think about it. Please.
He passes the piece of paper to Hero, who puts it under her hands without looking at it.
Let's just enjoy tonight.
Interior, Hero's 1960s apartment, window, night. Unable to sleep, Hero stands watching the city. Her bed is behind her with the covers thrown back. There are still signs of life in the city. In the distance there are flashes of lightning, but no rain or thunder. Hero looks over at her empty bed. Next to it is the photograph taken at the restaurant. In front of that is the piece of paper Exile gave her. Exterior, out on the street, early morning. Hero is walking with her arm tucked into Exile's. There are some people around, but they keep themselves to themselves.
You didn't have to walk me to the station. I know it's difficult.
Got to make sure my Exile leaves.
Exile smiles. They both turn a corner.
Did you give it any thought? You gonna come with me?
Hero pauses, then starts to give an answer. Exile puts a finger on her lips.
Tell me at the station. Leave me in suspense that little bit longer.
Hero smiles, then nods. Exile looks at Hero, almost trying to anticipate what the answer will be. The moment passes. He checks his watch.
We've got to get there first, of course.
Exile eagerly steps into the road just as a car speeds around the corner. He is hit and thrown over the bonnet and roof, landing in a heap, unmoving. The car screeches to a halt.
No!
Hero stands in shock as people move around her to see if Exile is okay. Hero's eyes are wide with shock. Interior, a bedroom in an old people's home, early morning. This scene is present day. Lying on her back on the bed, with her eyes open, is the elderly Hero. Stood nearby are two red jumpsuit-wearing paramedics. Paramedic 1 looks exactly like one of the supervisors, and a dark-suited matron who looks exactly like the head of facilities/archives. On the bedside table is a framed photograph of Hero and Exile from the restaurant. Next to it is an alarm clock. The numbers tick over to 6 a.m. and the alarm goes off. Matron silences it.
That is all we can do. TOD 6 a.m.
Paramedic 1 pulls out a record book and starts writing. Matron places a flower on Hero's chest, holding her hands over it. She brushes Hero's hair back. The paramedic 2 picks up the framed photo. Matron smiles.
They were going to get married.
Going to?
Yeah, when he got back. He was going on a trip. America, I think it was. Got killed on the way to the station. Car accident. Died in front of her.
Paramedic 2 makes a sympathetic face.
She had the most fantastic life, but I don't think she ever got over it. Always seemed to have him on her mind. Always talked about her exile.
The paramedic 2 replaces the framed photo and starts packing away.
Funny, isn't it? All those what could have beens and what ifs. If ifs and ands were pots and pans, beggars would ride horses, my mum would always say.
The first paramedic is finishing up the paperwork.
Next of kin?
None. She never married, no children. Just her.
He signs the bottom of the form, passes the pad to the second paramedic, who countersigns and hands it back.
Bit sad.
Oh, I don't know. Sounds ideal to me. Anyway, nobody's truly alone. We're all somebody's hero.
The paramedics and matron leave the room. There is a white light at the centre of the now deceased hero's eyes. It gets brighter and brighter. 2 black words appear on the white screen. The end. Fade to black.